Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and we finally have our first official look at Red Hulk, Thaddeus Ross, played by Harrison Ford in Captain America: Brave New World. This was our close-up angle of Red Hulk's face and shoulders that we saw at San Diego Comic-Con and D23, but now in an official public forum from a Marvel Celebrates 85 Years video that has since been taken down, but we got it! Ah! Ooh, let's look at that again. Okay, we need to do a proper visual analysis of the VFX design of Red Hulk, how they accomplished this visual effect, and the secrets in the design that connect it to elements that we've seen for the design for the Mark Ruffalo Hulk. Part of the reason it looks so good here is that it is really based on visual components that were created for Ruffalo's Smart Hulk form from Avengers Endgame. From the widow's peaks in the chest hair to the taco meat chest and pepperoni nipples, we are zooming and enhancing on Red Hulk in a new format we're trying here at New Rockstars called How They Made It. This episode, How They Made Red Hulk. So this 5-second clip of Red Hulk emerging from behind the presidential seal podium in the White House Rose Garden is what ended the exclusive footage shown at San Diego Comic-Con for Captain America: Brave New World. This is after the first teaser trailer in July showed the very quick shot of Red Hulk's body from the side and the feet when he catches Sam's shield and slams it down. And a different shot that I caught, a shot of Shira Haas, Ruth Bat Saraf, in an interior location looking up at someone in the foreground with a hulking, trembling figure. And I think this was another shot of Red Hulk, Thaddeus Ross, that was digitally desaturated for the trailer. So after they showed the Red Hulk footage at D23, Anthony Mackie had some interesting comments about his design.
They kept it real. Red Hulk had the gray chest hair, then the regular chest hair. Like the taco meat looked real. You have to appreciate Harrison Ford going that far.
The taco meat looked real? I don't know if I really understand what Anthony Mackie means by that, but we will get back to what food groups make up Red Hulk's shag carpet in a bit. But first, some background. For Captain America: Brave New World, Marvel Studios has partnered with WETA and probably a number of other visual effects companies that we don't know about yet, and we're not entirely sure if it was WETA that animated Red Hulk or another company like ILM or Framestore, because ILM was the company that originally did the design that was really the nexus game changer of this whole industry, the Hulk design in the 2012 Avengers film. See, in most of the big effects movies from the aughts, like the effects ILM did for the Star Wars prequels and the effects WETA did for Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings films, most of the work was composited digitally, and only in some instances were referenced used from the performances of the actors on the set. Like Peter Jackson's team and WETA artists discovered during production that Andy Serkis was actually giving them a ton of valuable references in his on-set performances, but really they just kind of captured the shape of his face, like his eyes, his eyelids, the cheek, and the mouth, and they used that to inspire the redesign of Gollum in the form that we saw in the Two Towers. Because if you remember, if you go back to look at Fellowship of the Ring, it was a completely different design for the character of Gollum. They just kind of figured out Gollum as they went. So 2003's Hulk, that was directed by Ang Lee, starring Eric Bana, and Marvel Studios' The Incredible Hulk in 2008, starring Edward Norton, created 3D designs for their Hulks that looked noticeably different from the Bruce Banner actors. And while using physical references for the animation later, they did not capture any of the granular elements of the performances in the context of the scenes. That's kind of why it feels like those characters are just visual effects that were added to the shot as opposed to something that's inhabiting the space of the scene. But 2012's Avengers changed everything. Director Joss Whedon met with the ILM designers, that at the time was led by ILM's Jeff White, to redesign the Hulk to match Mark Ruffalo's facial mannerisms. They wanted Ruffalo to play both Bruce Banner and the Hulk of this movie. So they ended up building a 3D model whose body was based on the body of Long Island bodybuilder Steve Rom. And for this movie, they put Mark Ruffalo in a motion capture suit on set alongside the other actors. And 4 motion capture HD cameras, 2 capturing his full body and 2 focused on his face, recorded his face and his body movements. And doing it this way, they captured Ruffalo's eyes, his teeth, and his tongue. In The Art of Marvel's The Avengers by Jason Sorrell, Joss Whedon went into further detail, saying, "Very early on, we decided to build the Hulk's face off of Mark's, not just in terms of what he was going to do movement-wise in playing the character, but also the actual physicality of it, including the bone structure and the contours of the eyes and mouth. We really wanted to bridge the gap between the characters so that when he turns into the Hulk, you go, oh my god, that's Bruce Banner, only he is big and green and very angry." This was so groundbreaking that it would go on to be the visual reference that Marvel and these effects companies would go back to every time we saw the Hulk in the MCU, from Avengers Age of Ultron to Thor Ragnarok, and it's also what they ended up doing with Josh Brolin as Thanos and Taika Waititi playing Korg. And Peter Jackson and WETA artists ended up doing the same thing with Benedict Cumberbatch as Smaug in the Hobbits films. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Summer's a great time to blow off some steam, but for many of us, improving our mental health needs a little bit more care than your average pool party provides. If you want help getting a handle on your mental health, try BetterHelp. BetterHelp makes starting therapy easier and less intimidating for a lot of people. First, use our link to go to their site, betterhelp.com/newrockstars. The site will ask you to answer a few questions so BetterHelp can match you up with one of their over 30,000 therapists who they think can help you out the most. The therapists they pick for you will have tons of experience dealing with whatever you're going through. Every single one of their therapists is licensed, has a master's or doctorate degree, and has spent over 3 years and 1,000 hours working with people just like you. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. We've been promoting BetterHelp for a while, and we've heard some amazing feedback from you guys. We got permission to share this review from one of our viewers who said, quote, "I've had a few therapists over the last couple years. My therapist was the most open and accommodating therapist I've ever had. He listened when I needed to talk and told me some hard truths when I needed to listen. I couldn't recommend him more." Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your home. Visit betterhelp.com/newrockstars or choose New Rockstars during sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. But then came Infinity War and Endgame. ILM began work on a Smart Hulk design that was originally set to be revealed at the end of Avengers Infinity War, but then that twist was removed from Infinity War and pushed to Avengers Endgame. So the build out for Smart Hulk was handed over from ILM to Framestore. Now, Smart Hulk was given visual touches to make him look a bit older, more seasoned, and far more relaxed. There's some gray in his temples. His nose and cheekbones now have to hold thick-rimmed glasses. We don't see this much in the movie, but they did give him some daddy chest hair. They wanted to make him less monstrous than he was as a Sakaar gladiator in Thor Ragnarok, and more of an indoor Hulk. One that Marvel's VFX producer Dan Deleu said might have some game and might have gone on a few dates over these years. Whereas the 3D model of Hulk is supposed to be 8.5 feet tall, in this case they shrunk him a bit to 7.5 feet so that he could exist more comfortably with the humans in the scene and smaller creatures like Rocket and these non-combat settings. Deleu explained how much of the success of Smart Hulk came from making Ruffalo comfortable on set, and that meant giving him food to interact with. And when you watch these behind the scenes shots, you can see Ruffalo is actually sitting there at the diner table with a real giant crepe, rolling it around some sausages and eating it. The Framestore artists used all of that, including him talking with food stuffed in the side of his cheek. And it's details like that that made our first glimpses of Smart Hulk in the movie of Avengers Endgame feel so natural and real, and we just kind of trusted anytime we saw him for the rest of that movie. And specifically, they used a software called Solve to animate micro expressions in Mark Ruffalo's face. Now, we didn't get much Hulk action in Avengers Endgame. The one Hulk smash scene is kind of his half-hearted, reluctant Hulk during the time heist when they're in the alley and Smart Hulk has to take off his shirt and flex and smash a car just to kind of play the part. One detail they included is Smart Hulk twitching his pecs. It was this little characterization detail that I think was meant to show Smart Hulk's body being excited to be back in the game, a contrast to Banner's mind not really being that into this charade. It's kind of like a retired NFL linebacker playing touch football in his backyard with the neighborhood kids and not wanting to go full out, but you know, some of his muscle groups are like, yeah, are we doing this again? Obviously, it was the Avengers Endgame Smart Hulk that influenced the Hulk we saw in the She-Hulk series. They used the same 3D model and the same overall process. But with Harrison Ford as Red Hulk, you may have noticed that there are certain visual elements that they paralleled with the designs from Smart Hulk from Endgame. Red Hulk's haircut is the same as some of the early concept art of Smart Hulk from Framestore, where it's shorter and the sides are gray around the temples. Framestore and Endgame didn't add Mark Ruffalo's signature curly mop of hair until a bit later in the design process. The early designs were cut pretty short. The crew of Captain America Brave New World even went as far as to give Harrison Ford as President Thaddeus Ross a shorter on the sides haircut so that it would match. For this shot of Red Hulk rising from behind the podium, they needed to show something we actually haven't seen that much of on screen in the MCU, the process of a Hulk growing. It's really difficult to show all in one shot while maintaining the visual authenticity. Normally you need references like the clothes the person was wearing to stretch and to tear. That was definitely the case for the animation of Hulk Todd's growth in She-Hulk. Even in that case, they had to direct the actor John Bass to exaggerate his douchey gestures to make the whole process look very silly and very wrong so that we would all be okay with Jen and the Kevin robot erasing this ridiculous subplot. But in this case, the growth of Red Hulk needs to look real and scary. So the director smartly begins the shot with the familiar icon of the presidential seal at the podium, and then they have him rise up from behind that, with the camera position low in the shot so that his shoulders, his traps, his pecs all just look huge. He's back to being 8.5 feet tall, perhaps even taller, which would have been Hulk's height from Age of Ultron and Thor Ragnarok. The striations and Red Hulk's pectorals each twitch in a realistic and intimidating way. They seem to have borrowed the same exact animation from Smart Hulk half-heartedly popping his pecs in Avengers Endgame, but they repurposed it in a way to freak us out. And I think we also see what Anthony Mackie was talking about by taco meat. The designers know that many viewers have vivid mental images of Harrison Ford shirtless from the Indiana Jones films, from Witness, a number of roles, but they had to thicken the chest hair for Red Hulk compared to Green Hulk because the more pronounced chest hair serves as a compensation for the fact that this Red Hulk, unlike the iconic Thaddeus Ross Red Hulk from the comics, does not have a mustache. But also the lack of a mustache causes us to focus more on the teeth. In the old designs of Hulk, one detail you might notice is that they intentionally gave him crooked teeth. But here with Red Hulk, his teeth are straight and pearly white, kind of like veneers that many politicians have. We should also note that the eyes are red along with the skin, whereas Red Hulk in the comics has yellow eyes. But they did take the time to get certain details right, like the pepperoni nipples. I'm sorry for even focusing on them, but every detail on any Hulk's frame, in his skin and his body, these designers have to zoom way in to get the texture of each contour of the skin perfect, every bump, every edge. And whereas a lighter green to a darker green when it comes to something like a nipple would not be that noticeable, a red to a slightly darker red just kind of hits us different. Like we've all seen dudes pass out drunk at beach parties and wake up sunburnt to a crisp looking a bit like this. But I think these artists understand that familiar scenario, and they're actually leaning into it with the Red Hulk's design. They pulled this off by basing Red Hulk on images we have seen before. Harrison Ford shirtless, little details from Smart Hulk in Endgame, rare carne asada sizzling on a grill. And they rendered it in a specific way to make it monstrous and terrifying. And that's how they made it. Comment down below with your thoughts on this. Follow me at EA Voss. Subscribe to all 3 channels in the New Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.